When you think of the Netherlands, what image comes to mind? Windmills turning gently in the breeze, fields of tulips stretching to the horizon, and bicycles gliding effortlessly over perfectly smooth paths? It all paints a picture of a country so flat, it almost feels unreal, like nature designed it with cyclists in mind. But is the Netherlands really a flat paradise? Or is that just a romanticized postcard version of reality? Let's dive in, pedal through the history, and find out. First, let's get the obvious out of the way. Yes, the Netherlands is famously flat. In fact, about a third of the country lies below sea level, and the highest mountain in the mainland Netherlands is Valserberg, which stands at a mighty 322 meters. That's smaller than some skyscrapers. But this flatness is not just a geographical quirk. It's a defining part of Dutch identity, history, and lifestyle. Why is it so flat here? The land we now call the Netherlands was shaped over thousands of years by rivers like the Rhine, Meuse, and Scheldt, and by the North Sea itself. Sediments piled up, marshes formed, and the land became a low, soggy delta. Instead of rolling hills or jagged cliffs, you get pancake terrain. And while that may sound boring to some, for the Dutch, it's been both a blessing and a challenge. The blessing? Flat land is easy to build on and perfect for farming. The challenge? Flat land is also vulnerable to flooding. This is why the Dutch became masters of water management. They built dikes, polders, and pumping stations to keep the sea at bay and turn wetlands into livable, fertile land. In other words, the flat paradise wasn't simply gifted by nature, it was engineered by human hands. Now, you might think flat land makes life easier. And in many ways, it does. Cycling is effortless compared to countries full of hills. You don't need gears to climb steep slopes, a one-speed bike will do just fine. No wonder the Netherlands became the cycling capital of the world. But there's another side to it. In a land this flat, wind can be your biggest enemy. Ask any Dutch cyclist, and they'll tell you, hills may be tough, but headwinds on an open polder road? That's a whole different level of pain. Beyond cycling, the flatness has shaped architecture and city planning. Without natural elevation changes, Dutch towns tend to have wide, open layouts. Views stretch for kilometers, giving that feeling of endless space, something you don't get in mountainous countries. But it also means you can't really hide behind a hill or a forest. Everything, from farms to wind turbines, stands in plain sight. Tourists often arrive expecting dramatic landscapes, only to realize the beauty here is subtle. Instead of peaks and valleys, you get symmetry, straight canals, orderly fields, and skies that seem to go on forever. In fact, painters like Jacob van Ruysdael and later the Impressionists were fascinated by the Dutch sky, because without mountains to block the view, the light changes dramatically throughout the day. Flatness also plays a role in Dutch sports. Speed skating, for example, thrives here partly because of the vast, frozen waterways in winter. No hills to interrupt the ice, just kilometers of smooth, flat surface. When the rare Elfstedentocht takes place, skaters can glide through 200 kilometers of Friesland's frozen canals, an event that's become legendary. Economically, the flat geography has been a huge advantage. It made building roads, railways, and infrastructure straightforward. Ports like Rotterdam could expand easily, becoming some of the largest in the world. And of course, agriculture benefited enormously, from tulip fields to dairy farms producing the famous Dutch cheeses. But here's a twist, not all of the Netherlands is equally flat. The north and west are the flattest, but if you head to the southern province of Limburg, you'll actually find rolling hills. The Dutch even call it their mountainous region, though most other countries would still just call it slightly bumpy. For many Dutch people, visiting Limburg feels like going abroad without leaving the country, simply because you have to go uphill. This brings us to an interesting question: does flatness affect the Dutch mindset? Some say yes. Living on a landscape without barriers makes you think more openly, collaborate more, and value long-term planning, especially when you've been fighting water for centuries. Others argue it creates a certain directness, a kind of no-nonsense practicality. When everything is laid out in front of you. There's no need for dramatic flourishes, just get the job done. Of course, there are downsides to the flatness. Without hills or mountains, the Netherlands doesn't have the natural defenses that higher ground offers. It also means flooding will always be a risk, especially with rising sea levels due to climate change. The Dutch know this all too well. Which is why they continue to innovate in water management, from storm surge barriers to floating houses. In daily life, though, most people see the flatness as a plus. It means easy commutes, scenic cycling routes, and a landscape that's open and inviting. For visitors, it can be calming, you can see where you're going, literally and figuratively. For locals, it's just home. So, is the Netherlands a flat paradise? If by paradise you mean an effortless cyclist's dream, a farmer's delight, and a water engineer's playground, then yes, absolutely. But it's a paradise that's been built, maintained, and defended for centuries. It's not the wild, dramatic beauty of mountains and valleys. It's the quiet beauty of order, openness, and a horizon that always seems just within reach. So next time you're in the Netherlands, take a moment to appreciate that flatness. Look out over the polders, watch the light dance on the canals, and feel the wind in your hair as you cycle without a single hill to climb. Because here, flat isn't boring, it's a way of life. And who knows? Maybe after a week here, you'll start thinking of hills not as a challenge, but as an unnecessary inconvenience. In the Netherlands, the road ahead is always clear and always flat. If you enjoyed this deep dive into Dutch food culture, don't forget to like the video, subscribe for more insights into Dutch life, and share your thoughts in the comments.